John chapter 11 where Jesus encounters Mary, and Mary's very concerned about Lazarus and his death and all those things. And it says there, of course, that when he hears about all this, that Jesus wept, and then it says how much that he loved them. Now, I want us for a moment to think on this particular question and what Mary's response might have been to Jesus if he'd asked her this question. Mary, where does it hurt? How would she answer? If it were you, how would you have answered that? And what might Jesus have told her? What might we learn from that? And I've entitled this sermon today, Where Does It Hurt? And I want us to take a look at some of the things that I think that we can learn from the hurts, the pains, the problems, the difficulties that we have in life. And we might look at some of these things and learn some, I think, some very, very vital lessons. So if I were just kind of speculating with Mary, or any one of you, if I ask you the question, if I'd ask you the question, where does it hurt today, what might you say? You know, what might you suggest? Might you say, for example, well, I have no pain. Well, I look out over an older audience and I realize that some of you have some pains and you have some problems. But oftentimes it's interesting that people will respond to, well, where does it hurt? You know, I don't know. I don't have any pain. Or we might think, well, I have pain, but I deserve the pain that I have. Or I have pain, but that's life. Or I have pain, but I can handle it, and I don't need any help in having the pain. As I was talking with a person this past week, he was talking to me about some of the difficulties that he was having in life and some of the difficulties that he was having in relationships. And I asked him, have you ever looked at your face? Because your face is full of pain. And you give a wrong impression. You give an impression of terrible pain, which may mislead people. Upon saying that to the individual, he just took him back and he said, I never realized that. And I said, it would be interesting to take a picture of you when you were happy and you weren't in this pain and compare it to what you are today and how you look. Because you give this very, very pained expression, and I know you have reason to be in pain. I know some of those things. If I were to ask him, you know, where does it hurt? He really couldn't tell me other than maybe a physical pain. But I would suggest to all of us, brethren, that there was a lot of pains that hurt us that aren't just physical. And that God is very interested in. I think with Mary, he was very, very interested in her emotional pain. And what Mary might have said, and this is one of the interesting things that I think all of us need to think about and give some thought to, and we will give some thought to as we grow older, and as there comes that day when it's just you and God. And it's that final moment, and you can either be in pain, or maybe you can have a little different approach to this moment of you and God when you know that your physical life is about to come to a conclusion. And if God were to ask you at that moment, where's your pain, what might you say? What might I say? Well, my pain, Lord, is in this. I'm going to no longer be able to sing your praises, to tell you how much I love you. That's painful, not to be able to tell you that, because also it's painful that I'm not going to be able to tell my loved ones how much I love them and how much I enjoyed being with them. And that's a painful thought. And the Lord might say, you know, I want you to understand there's a huge lesson in that. Because maybe a good part of your life you think, well, I can live by myself. I don't need people. And all of a sudden you realize that when you're old and gray and you're about to die, you need people. And you need help. And that there are losses. And you aren't able to do the things that you've done before. So there are pains there. Well, today what I want to do is I want to walk through a chapter in the book of Romans the Apostle Paul writes. And I would suggest that it has both some pains and some prescriptions for our pains. And I would suggest we're going to look at Romans chapter 8, verses 15 through 39. And I would suggest that we can find in here some questions about where does it hurt. Because I think all of us have asked our kids at times, where does it hurt? And you know, the most frustrating thing all of us have had as parents is with our kids when they can't tell us where it hurts. We don't know where it hurts. That's a very frustrating place to be. Well, imagine with God. We're saying, well, God, it doesn't hurt. I can't tell you where it hurts. I can't explain it. And I can't explain what the hurt really is. And I can't tell you all the symptoms of this hurt and what it's doing to me. It's a lot easier as a doctor, as a physician, to help when you can tell the doctor where it hurts. Otherwise, he's got to do a lot of tests, internal tests, and then he may not be able to find it out. Mac had a car that was hurting last week. And the end result of it, I couldn't tell him exactly where it hurt. And it cost him a lot of time and trouble and all of those things. I use that as a physical example to remind us that those are some realities in our life. So when we look here in Romans chapter 8, verses 15 through 39, I believe that Paul desires to express to us pain and gives us some prescriptions and some strategies for living with it and working with it. Because sometimes, brethren, we become accustomed to pain. And we think that is the way that it is. That's the way that's just normal, that's natural. And as I was mentioning, this person with this pained expression on their face, they've grown accustomed to that. I'm going to suggest, too, that in this Romans chapter 8, in this chapter, of course, Paul has been talking about the thing that causes most pain, which is sin. He talks about that. The difficulties, the wages of sin is death. He talks about the struggle that he has in not living up to the standard that he would want and how that he too finds himself as a sinner. So again, we get accustomed to living with that. And there are pains and we think, well, that's just the way it is. That's just normal and that's natural. We also, sometimes with pain, we're unaware of its effect upon us and other individuals as well. This guy was getting into trouble because of his pained expression. How many of us, have said something to our children, because we're an older generation that would say this kind of thing, get that attitude, look off your face, which is an expression of attitude that we're seeing on a person, and sometimes you wonder, well, what's behind that attitude? What is the pain? What is the problem behind that? And they're unaware of that. Then we don't recognize pain for what it is, that it is pain. Sometimes we even inflict pain on ourselves of all weird things in order to get pleasure. Now, that is not uncommon. Remember, the Apostle Paul had to write to a church that were very stoic. They were eat not, touch not, taste not, handle not. They were inflicting pain upon themselves in order to give them some kind of spiritual pleasure that they were right and righteous and better than everybody else. And that is how that you do the right thing or you become righteous. And then sometimes also what we don't understand is the value of pain. Pain has a value. For example, if you had no pain or no pain in the way of feeling pain, and you cut yourself a big gash and an artery, and you're walking just bleeding all over the place, you have no idea of that, then you're going to bleed to death.
Feeling the blues today or tired of life already? Do you have questions about life or need spiritual advice? We can help. Log on to worldwidechurchofgod.com or wcgfairfield.blogspot.com and stay connected to reality. The Worldwide Church of God in Fairfield, Santa Rosa, and Modesto are located in the San Francisco Bay Area, regarded as the most prosperous region in the United States. We believe Jesus Christ when he proclaimed in Matthew 6:24 that serving God is more important than serving mammon. We welcome everyone to come and worship and fellowship every Saturday at the times listed on your screen and on our website, worldwidechurchofgod.com.